Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories on a Sunday as nature intended. Oh my goodness me. Here we are in the library. We've got the fire on, we've got the candles on. I've got a new t-shirt, awesome sauce. Derp is up on the windowsill because it's been a hot old day and I think that's probably the coolest place there is. What are we reading? We are still reading the brilliant Ghost Stations 5. When I say brilliant, no, it's not. It's the bits of it are quite hard going. And yeah, so bits of it were quite grim, actually. So we will soldier on, if you'll pardon the pun. And there is another book I want to order from this series, which I don't think I have. So we will probably do that at half time. At half time, we'll be tucking into the Thai chili rice snack from Lidl. What are we drinking tonight? Well, two beer strategy. So the first one is Nirvana Buttercup, a DDH pale ale, alcohol free for goodness sake. Didn't read that one properly, did I? And it says Meet Buttercup, our limited edition DDH pale ale brewed with Hop Pioneers TNS to create our hoppiest beer yet. Double dry hopped with Hop Gain, copyright, Flow, Sertralicious, and Outback, plus a juicy hint of Hop Burst, copyright, registered copyright, Nectaron and Magnifico for peach, lychee, and citrus vibes. Fresh, fruity, and made for sunny days. Featuring local artist Carl Stimpson's Buttercup. This is the second collab in our summer series featuring Blossom. See more at carlsimpson.com. Vegan friendly, blah, 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 blah. Nirvana Brewery, Unit T6, Leighton Industrial Estate, Argyle Avenue, London, E10 7QP. So there we go. Nirvana Buttercup. Alcohol free. So we will be having the alcohol tonight because we'll be having the Balmure from Lidl. So let's just put the, shall we put the visual effects on? Let's put the blur on. So we don't want it that bad. That's better. That's quite nice, that. So let us crack on the ghost stories because I've got to somehow stay awake until 1 o'clock this morning to watch the England game. So I think what I'll probably do is I'll probably fall asleep and then set the phone to wake me up before I go. No, wake me up at 1 o'clock. So the College Road Ghost. I have just finished reading your book, Ghost Stations 3, said Derek Smith. I found the little bit about Hornchurch interesting as I now live very near the old Hornchurch fighter station. Also, the story about Hendon, for in 1957 I spent 13 weeks at Hendon Police College, which I believe at that time used a lot of the old buildings belonging to Hendon Airfield as a mess hall and dormitories, etc. I regret to say nothing I saw in that 13 weeks was in the least bit ghostly. However, I do have a story which happened to me when I was a child, and I thought that it was about time I told someone about it before it gets put down to the ramblings of an old man. Derek Smith's story is such an interesting one that I had to include it. It is not one of the airfields, nevertheless. It is not one with airfields, nevertheless. It does have some bearing from the fact of being able to understand the reason behind the ghostly visit, in this case, the jawbone. I would like to make clear that the house in which Derek Smith then lived, number 19 College Road, was originally gaslit, and the fittings for the electric light were all converted to gas mantles fitted to the wall. Sorry. Read that again. It was originally gaslit, and the fittings for the electric light were all converted gas mantles fitted to the wall. His bedroom was at the back of the house, and the ceiling sloped with the roof line. Thus, the only place for his bed was in front of the door. The window was at the foot of the bed, slightly to the left. Derek continues. I'm sure we read this on last time, but never mind. Derek continues. I was born on the 11th of September 1938 in a small two up, two down wooden weatherboarded cottage in College Road, Epsom, Surrey. I lived in that cottage with my parents and younger sister until I was 14 years, when we all moved to a council house on the other side of town. When I was 10 or 11 years old, I was helping my father to dig a plot in the garden ready for planting when I turned up a lower human jawbone, complete with teeth. I cleaned it up under the tap to free it of the chalky soil which was adhering to it and took it into the house. I thought no more of it, and my father said we should take it to the police the following day. I went to bed that night at my normal time and fell asleep. I woke up suddenly during the night. The moon was up and was shining through the small window at the foot of my bed. In the light, standing next to my bed, which was the old-fashioned kind with a headboard and with head and footboards and a metal frame, was the figure of a man. He was about 5'10" and dressed in cavalier dress, a large hat with feather, knee breeches, and a sort of short jacket or coat over his right shoulder, and a shirt with puff sleeves. But the funny thing was that he was grey and semi-transparent, yet he looked solid. I took this all in the few seconds that I looked at him. The only way out of my small bedroom without touching the figure was over the headboard, which is the way I went, without taking my eyes from the figure. I hit the light switch and the figure vanished. I woke my parents, who told me that it was just moonlight shining through the net curtain over my window. I did not believe them, and I do not think that they believed it either. The following day, the jawbone was reburied deeply in the garden, and although I was frightened, I had to sleep in that bedroom for the next few years until we moved house. I never saw anything else in my bedroom, and although the moonlight continued to shine through my window at night, it never again took on human shape. I firmly believe that the ghost owner of that lower jaw, I firmly believe that I saw the ghost owner of that lower jaw and that he wanted it put back into the earth where, I presume, that the rest of his body was buried. My parents told nobody of my experience, so if the cottages are still there and the area has not been redeveloped, I would like to think he still lies under the ground in the cottage garden. Definitely deserves a thunderclap, that. Well, if I can find it. Yeah, we did read that one last time, so. Oh, I definitely need a drink, even if it's a non-alcoholic one. So, slange me for everybody. Yeah, you can tell that's non-alcoholic. Anyway, cheers me beers. Oh, that's better. Lily Marlene, The Haunting Wartime Song. Lily Marlene, the haunting song of the Second World War. It was Lael Anderson's haunting voice that introduced Lily Marlene to the German Afrika Korps, and the British troops heard it sung by captured German soldiers. And such was the impact of this haunting song on the troops that the British government commissioned Tommy Connor to produce English lyrics for the music. I'm just gonna say it's an annoying habit of Bruce here that he writes. Here's a classic example. Haunting voice that introduced Lily Marlene to the German Afrika Korps and, comma, the British troops heard it sung by captured German soldiers. The comma doesn't need to be there. And he does this all the time. He writes and, then he puts comma, and it's like, it just doesn't need to be there. Anyway, sorry about that. The haunting Lily Marlene swept all theatres of war. It was blowing on the wind. Those fighting in Italy were called D-Day Dodgers by Lady Astor, Britain's first woman member of Parliament, who had visited Italy in October 1944 to examine the soldiers' living conditions. Again, another errant comma there. She then made a statement saying the troops spent too much time on drunken orgies and that the VD rate was so high that all troops who were in Italy should be made to wear yellow armbands. Is that what they mean? So that British womanhood could identify them and thereby avoid them. Bruce, you're doing it again. We've got ands with commas after them. Ugh. Great damage was done by these allegations, which caused great resentment among the troops. This led to a poem being written by someone at 8th Army HQ. The poem was put to the tune of Lily Marlene, and a printed copy was sent to all soldiers in the 8th Army. Many, if not all the readers, will remember the wartime Lily Marlene song, and some of you the song of the D-Day Dodgers. But for the benefit of those who are not familiar with it, here it is. The song of the D-Day Dodgers sung to the tune of Lily Marlene. I'm going to have to read the whole bloody thing out. Right. We're the D-Day Dodgers out in Italy, always on the vino and always on the spree. 8th Army scroungers and their tanks. We live in Rome amongst the Yanks. We're the D-Day Dodgers in sunny Italy. We landed at Salerno, a holiday with pay. The Jerrys brought the bands out to cheer us on our way, showed us the sights and gave us tea. We all sang songs and the beer was free to welcome D-Day Dodgers to sunny Italy. Naples and Casino we've taken in our stride. We didn't come to fight here, we just came for the ride. Anzio and Sangro were just names. We only came to look for dames. The randy D-Day Dodgers in sunny Italy. On the way to Florence, we had a lovely time. We ran a bus to Rimini right through the Gothic line. Soon to Bologna we will go. After that, we'll cross the Po. We'll still be D-Day dodging in sunny Italy. Once we heard a rumour that we were going home, back to dear old Blighty and never more to Rome. Then someone said, in France you'll fight. We said, no fear, we'll just sit tight. The windy D-Day Dodgers in sunny Italy. Dear Lady Astor, you think you know a lot, standing on your platform and talking Tommy rot. You England's sweetheart and its pride, we think your mouth's too bleeding wide. That's from your D-Day Dodgers in sunny Italy. Look around the mountains in the mud and rain, see the scattered crosses, there's some which have no name. Heartbreak and sorrow are all gone, the boys beneath them slumber on. They are the D-Day Dodgers who'll stay in Italy. And even at the bomber stations, the haunting Lily Marlene crept in. In the public houses of Mablethorpe in Lincolnshire and elsewhere, the boys from the bomber stations would sing the following to the tune of Lily Marlene. Down in windy Lincolnshire, down beside the sea, there is a bomber squadron of which I'm proud to be. Press on regardless is our cry, to do or die, not to reason why. The boys of 619, the famous 619. The enemy coasts ahead, boys, look at all the flak. Mother dear, I hope you're near, or else we'll ne'er get back. The flare path's behind us, far behind. It's cold up here, but we don't mind. We're pressing on regardless. The boys of 619, the famous 619. I think we'll have another bit of non-alcoholic beer for that, Slange. But why had Lily Marlene such a haunting effect on just about all Allied and Axis troops? To find out the possible reason, we must go back to the beginning. Lily Marlene started life as a sad little poem in the First World War. It was written by Hans Leip, a German soldier who had fought in the trenches and who knew firsthand the horrors of war. In 1917, Hans Liep fell in love with two young Frauleins. One was called Betty, but Hans called her his Lily. The other young Fraulein was called Marlene. Already the contents take on a haunting flavour as Hans was torn between the two young Frauleins, but brought them together. Read it again. Already the contents take on a haunting flavour as Hans, who was torn between the two young Frauleins, brought them together in his poem Lied eins Jungen Wachtpostens, the theme being about a young soldier on sentry duty. In the mind of Hans Leip, it was a ghost soldier, the next spooky piece of the puzzle now in place. For some unknown reason, Norbert Schultz put the poem to music, and the eerie, haunting melody of Lily Marlene became an instant radio favourite. Became an instant favourite after Lael Anderson sang Lily Marlene on Radio Cologne in 1939. It then surfaced again after demand for records for Rommel's Africa Corps in North Africa, and it was played on Radio Belgrade on the 18th of August 1941. It became a cult amongst the hard-fighting soldiers of the German army, but not with the German officers who all wished to disassociate and distance themselves for the haunting Lily Marlene. Should be from the haunting Lily Marlene. And again, he's written there, but not the German officers who, comma, all wish to disassociate. Doesn't need a comma, Bruce. Oh, I'll show you how bad his writing is in a second. Anyway, how very strange. ... He's got a habit of putting ... in there. And to add to the haunting mystery, Norbert Schultz, the German head of the Leon Jessel Foundation, which, comma, is named after a Jewish composer allegedly killed by the Nazis. It's got, bear with me, folks. The German head of the Leon Jessel Foundation, which, comma, is named after a Jewish composer, hyphen, alleged killed by the Nazis, hyphen, also wants to disassociate himself from the haunting Lily Marlene, ... He says he is ashamed of his wartime music, ... Why? Oh, for God's sake, Bruce, write it in bloody English. When I contacted Norbert Schultz in 1990, he refused to reply to me. Instead, I got a curt letter. When I contacted Norbert Schultz in 1990, he refused to reply to me, comma. Instead, comma, I got a curt letter from Apollo Verlag saying I could not use any Apollo Verlag edition of Lily Marlene, and of Schultz they said, Mr. Schultz wishes not to be mentioned. Just why the commas, Bruce? Anyway, very nice. And why not? And why not? So I've gone a bit Barry Norman there. It is because he did not want to admit that he still receives about £12,000 sterling a year in royalties from Lily Marlene. No wonder it is a haunting Lily Marlene. Should any pensioner who, comma, is haunted by the wartime Lily Marlene song, but does not want to get the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, comma, drop Mr. Schultz a line at Humboldt-Strasser 9, D1000 Berlin 33 Germany, or give him a call. He puts the telephone number down and remind him of Lily Marlene, that eerie, haunting wartime song. Oh God, Bruce, what's your problem? Really? Oh, what an odd man. This is why these books are hard work. It's almost like the first Ghost Stations books had an editor who just went, yeah, Bruce, you need to tidy that up a bit. You need to cut that out. You need to write it in legible English. Like I say, he's got this habit. I don't know if you can see that there. It's everything's punctuated with ... He puts commas after words where they shouldn't be. Anyway, in the magnificent Rush beer glass, God bless you, viewers, Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Cheers me beers. or derpy. I can't wait to actually have a beer tonight rather than non-alcoholic. Anyway, Slange me bar. We might have a bit more scotch tonight. Anyway, Glenn Miller. After my Ghost Stations 4 hit the bookshops, a flood of letters to support and congratulate me on exposing the truth about Major Glenn Miller. But one arrived with fangs exposed from a professional author, and from his letter I will prove which end he is talking from. I've reproduced Wilbur Wright's letter in full and answered same in numerical order of the letter. I served, as stated in my books, in the Royal Air Force Provost Special Security and one of the few stationed on the purpose-built atomic bomb storage site, the only one of its kind in the world. A plan of the station shown for the first time in my Action Stations 8 military airfields of Greater London, page 266. My credentials. Bit of a show off, Bruce. How many pages does this go on for? Oh, goodness me. Now, we might have to have a pause in the middle, so. Dear Mr. Halpenny, Ghost Stations 4, Glenn Miller. I trust you will have no objection to my making some comments on your above story. I have been researching the Miller mystery for 6 years, and I am a professional author with 14 published books, including one bestseller. I append hereunder the true documented story of Miller's disappearance with some photocopies which may be of interest. With regard to your own story, you say Miller was a spy, for against the Americans or for against the British. You omit to say. The item about his broadcast containing coded messages was first publicised in the Frank Wopat tape of 1991. The BBC admitted that their record archives were vandalised and robbed post-war when they were moved to Reading, and items stolen included all Miller's wartime discs. His broadcasts were analysed by the scientific establishment at Bletchley Park and were found to contain nothing suspicious. 2. You say Don Haynes' diary was totally fictitious, yet you quote from it at length, inferring that this was the real course of events up to Friday, December the 15th, 1944. We obtained copies of Miller's burial file and 201 personal files, and Haynes' name is not mentioned in any official document, signal, or record. As you say, it was fictitious. Oh, I'm liking this. This guy's taking Bruce Barrymore Halpenny down. I'm going to enjoy this. So what are we up to? 25 minutes. Yeah, well, Slange. I think we'll just have a quick top up of the scotch. Three, I have John Morgan's full personal history and am in contact with his family. He had flown a total of 683 hours at his death with no operational missions at all. He was based on a ferry squadron at Royal Air Force Heston, Middlesex for a year after completing flying training at 2 RAF bases, underwent a beam approach training course and transferred to the United States Army Air Force in early 1944. In September that year, he was transferred from 44 Strategic Air Depot Wattisham to 35 Air Depot Repair Squadron Abbots Ripton. In November 1944, he flew 7 missions totaling 21 hours, and in December 1944, flew only twice. On December the 2nd, returning from Paris with Basewell, and on the 15th of December, his last flight. 4. Morgan was cleared direct to base B-42, Beauvais, France and Bordeaux. I have his service record card and a copy of his orders. And he left Abbots Ripton at 13:25, cleared direct to Beauvais, flying east of London to Dymchurch, Kent. He was spotted by a Royal Observer Corps lady who phoned in during a radio programme to confirm. The sighting was passed on to Chafe, Versailles. 5. About 6 miles west of Le Touquet, about 14:45 hours, the Norseman suffered a failure of the propeller hydraulic system, causing a runway propeller to shear off. He and Basewell, the only occupants, died from drowning. The aircraft was found by Clive Ward, oceanic survey expert, who found the propeller was missing. We traced 8 other C-64 aircraft missing in the European Theatre of Operations in 1944, and by a process of elimination, that off Le Touquet can only be 4470285, Morgan's aircraft. Just seeing how much of this brilliant takedown we've got to go. 6. For your information, the Station Form 540 Daily History for Royal Air Force Twinwood Farm on the 15th of December 1944 reads, Airfield closed. No flying today. We located 3 serving RAF people based there that day, including Mr. Glover, the air traffic controller. All 3 state no Norseman landed there that day. 7. Lieutenant Colonel Norman F. Basel, note spelling, was not a pilot of Goodrich's personal pilot. He was a staff officer, a special assistant to Goodrich, responsible for locating, equipping and opening advanced repair bases. 8th Air Force Service Command carried out the repair and servicing of all 8th Air Force aircraft. He met Miller fortuitously. The Army Air Force Band moved to Bedford to escape the V-1s, and 8th Air Force SCHQ was at Milton Ernest Hall, 3 miles out of town. His orders for the 15th of December were to fly to Beauvais, drop some spares, stay the night, and fly to Bordeaux next day. Base Y-37 Bordeaux Merignac had opened up on December the 6th as an 8th Air Force medium bomber base, and Basewell was going to inspect and determine their needs. Slange. Oh. Your 8. Your evidence about the Women's Army Air Force controller is totally incorrect. She was LACW Dixie clerk who settled in British Columbia after the war and died in 1988. Her date of birth was December the 15th, the same day Miller allegedly vanished. We proved conclusively that she confused her dates. She witnessed the November 8th flight on which Morgan picked up with Miller, Basel and Hayes. Miller bound for Villa Coublay and Chafe, Special Headquarters Army Air Force, Special Headquarters, SHAEF, was dropped at Bovingdon, and Morgan flew on to Orly with the others. I have an interview tape she made with a Mr. Ken Perfect in 1983. All right, Ken, don't boast. 9. Your account of the time spent at Twinwood waiting for Morgan is a straight extract from the Haynes diaries, one of which said Morgan came from Station 525 Heston, and the other said Station 595 Honington. Morgan's flight records show he flew down from Honington on November the 8th, not December the 15th, and Haynes used details from that account to fabricate his December 15th story. Morgan could not have talked down on the later date. The airfield was closed. 10. I spent much time at Oakley, Twinwood, and Milton Ernest Hall on research. I met 11 people who worked at the Royal Aircraft establishment, and none were aware of any secret tunnels. 11. You give no explanation of why Basil and Morgan were involved. There is no evidence of any kind to support the Poddington story. As a matter of fact, I have on record some 38 different accounts of Miller's fate, and all suffer from the same lack of solid documentary evidence. 12. In what international scandal was Miller involved? If he was such a moral asset as Doolittle described, why was it necessary to get rid of him? 13. Your comment about the burial files is misleading. Burial files are opened for all missing US Army/Air Force personnel, even if their bodies are never recovered. I obtained burial files for Miller, Morgan, and Basil after appealing to President Reagan. The fact is, no evidence in Miller's burial file or his 201 personal file. There is no evidence in Miller's burial file or his 201 personal file to support your story. Wing Commander Sidolf, like 20 or more people I have met, was another glory hunter prepared to invent the most outlandish stories. But significantly, several of the other people I have met admitted they were paid to disseminate false information in cash dollars in letters posted from Alexandria, Virginia, and Pasadena, California. My late friend Karen lived in Alexandria, Virginia. Anyway, 14. In March 1992, I located LACW Joan Heath, personal driver to Air Marshal Tedder, at SHAEF Versailles in December 1944. Miller flew to Paris by shuttle from Bovington on Thursday, the 14th of December, accompanied by Teddy Gower, resident BBC engineer, and a small group of musicians, including Nat Peck, Mel Powell, Peanuts Hucko, and Ray McKinley. On Saturday, December 16th, they played at a big party at SHAEF to celebrate Ike's promotion to General of the Army. Joan Heath was there and talked to Miller. He said he was going stateside for a few days over Christmas, and she agreed to take him to Boo Airfield, a mile from Versailles, used by the 115th Liaison Squadron flying Cessna UC-78 Bobcats. On Sunday morning, she drove Miller to the airfield and saw him board the plane. It was to take him to Bordeaux, where he would board a transatlantic flight using the southerly route via the Azores. Bordeaux had been operational since December the 6th. The Bobcat was lost en route, and since Miller was AWOL, desertion in wartime, the loss was hushed up. The wreck and bodies were sighted in June 1946 from the air, but not found despite a wide search. SHAEF had no idea of Miller's fate, and because the Christmas Day broadcast to America was imminent, prepared the Norseman story with the help of Haynes. 15. Miller's body was eventually found and returned quietly to his family in California. Since Eisenhower, later president, was involved in the whole business, a cover-up was essential and is ongoing today. I know where he is buried, including grave and burial lot number and the address of the cemetery. His family want the secret kept because they believe Miller would be accused of desertion. He did not have permission to make the flight. In conclusion, may I say on a personal note that I deplore your virulent anti-British comments in Ghost Stations 4, again totally unsupported by factual evidence. And for your information, Napoleon died of cyanide poisoning by fumes emanated by the green dye of his wallpaper. St. Helena was warm and humid, and his final illness bore all the hallmarks of cyanosis. One of his servants sent home a sample of the wallpaper in her scrapbook, which was analysed and shown to contain a high level of cyanide. The man who died in Spandau, of course, was not Hess. His body showed no trace of the gunshot wound he received in World War I. The dead man was a double introduced by mutual four-power agreement to maintain the status quo as long as possible. Yours sincerely, Wilbur Wright. Wasn't he one of the guys who flew the Kitty Hawk, the first manned flight? What are you up to? 37 minutes. Oh, where are you going to? Half time. Goodness me, that was an epic. And the thing is, we've still got Bruce's response to come yet. Right, half time. Oh, the beer burps at 37 minutes and 45 seconds. For the second part of tonight's beer, we're going to have some Butty Back, Wye Valley Brewery, 4.5% volume of alcohol. Just going to read what it says on the back here. Butty Back is a Welsh term for little friend. And this smooth, satisfying bottle-conditioned beer has made quite a few friends in its time! Exclamation mark. Burnished gold in colour, Butty is crafted from fine ingredients including extra pale Maris Otter malted barley, crystal malted barley for a sweet Moorish character, and local Fuggles Goldings and Bramling Cross hops. Store upright, serve lightly chilled, pour with care, and leave the natural sediment in the bottle. Yeah, well, I'm not going to do that. Ingredients: water, barley, wheat, hops, yeast, allergens, barley and wheat. Wye Valley Brewery. Stoke Lacey, Herefordshire, HR7 4HG. I picked this up when I was in Monmouth last month. Was it? No, month before last, with friend Tara for her birthday. So it's been in the fridge tonight. It's been in the fridge since then. Now, I was going to have some of the Liver Bird canned beer, but I am so keen to grace this tonight. It is my Godzilla bottle opener, which I bought with the t-shirt. I know what you're thinking. Come on, man, you're 59 years old. Surely it is time to grow out of this nonsense. No, not at all. Absolutely not at all. In fact, I still have my Heisei era Blu-rays to watch. Seen all those films before, but I haven't got them on Blu-ray. So I am particularly looking forward to watching Invasion of Astro Monster, which is a belter. Nick Adams and Akira Takarada. Brilliant stuff. Right, let's have some Thai chili rice snacks. What are we up to? Nearly come up to 10:30. So we still yet to have supper, and then I've got to somehow stay awake until 1 o'clock in the morning. But my good friend Jude said she might message me when the game's on, so you might have a FaceTime while the match is on. So fingers crossed. Now, before I forget, eBay, Ghost Stations 4. I'm sure that's the one. I can't find it on my shelves. Accept all. Oh, Ghost Stations 4, eBay, £3.45, free postage. I think we'll go for that. Oh, no, it's no longer available. What a bummer. eBay postage. This one is no longer available. Okay, Aid Books. eBay, let's have a look. Nope, that's gone. Do you know what? 8 books, £5 plus £4 postage. Yeah, that'll do. Add to basket. We're going to buy it live on the internet tonight. Sign in. Check out. Yeah, let's buy it. Double click to pay. And we have bought a copy of Ghost Stations 4. So excellent. Right. I will go back through Ghost Stations 2 as well to see what anything we can pick out from that to read. So here we go. Here is Bruce's response to Wilbur Wright. Oh my goodness me, this goes on for another 8 pages. Give me strength. Right, we're going to carry on here. So now let me answer Wright's letter. The photocopies referred to I will answer at 4. 1. Miller a spy against the Allies. Wright then says the item about Miller's broadcast contained coded messages was first published in 1990, publicized in 1991. I had that first. I said it in 1958. And first part of Miller's story published in my Ghost Stations 3, first published April 1990. The concluding part of Miller in my Ghost Stations 4, first published in March 1991. How very convenient to have all of Miller's wartime discs stolen. And why should the scientific establishment at Bexley Park want to analyse Miller's broadcast? Bruce, to disprove that there were coded messages in there? Come on, mate, really? 2. As stated in my Ghost Stations 4, Don Hayes was the man who sowed the seeds of deception. Wright says Hayes not mentioned in any official document. That does not mean a damn thing. It is a fact that Hayes was driving the staff car. That is the important point. 3. So what? Basil lived to fly another day. 4. No flight plan log for Miller's aircraft. Wright has his service record card and copy of his orders. So what? Has Wright got a copy of his flight plan? The answer, no. And cleared from Beauvais, France and Bordeaux. Bordeaux, that is south. What the hell was he going to Bordeaux for? We see that soon. And the correct listing is Beauvais Teal, a pre-war airfield used by the French Air Force. But what has that got to do with it? And those photocopies Wright sent, how the hell could anyone be so damn cuckoo? Only the Yanks. For the benefit of my readers, I will quote, during the investigation of the area of Bordeaux, a search was made for the mentioned deceased, and it was found that there was no trace of them in the area of Bordeaux. What bunkum! Bordeaux is around 320 miles south of Paris. Slowly losing the will to live here. So after a good laugh, I filed them away where they belong, in the bin. Miller's aircraft spotted by a woman in Royal Observer Corps. I thought it was foggy and radar not working. Thank goodness this lone soul was on duty. I expect Miller waved to her or gave her a tune as he flew past, just to make sure she knew it was him, the vain devil. 5. Now states that the Norseman 6 miles west of Le Touquet. The plot thickens, but I thought it was Bordeaux. I expect he has just popped there for a couple of bottles of wine, a sort of early Beaujolais run. This from Bordeaux. Pity never caught on. And claims to have found Miller's aircraft. Good boy, now show me. And the world, now show me, and the world where it is. Not possible unless where I say. 6. Well, not interested that Wright's 3 cowboys tell him Miller's aircraft landed and took off, as stated in my Ghost Stations 4, from RAF Twinwood Farm on the 15th of December 1944. Wright, with his 3 cowboys, should let Miller's son-in-law, Barry Soper, in on the news, for he has recently been to England to try and purchase the dilapidated control tower at Twinwood Farm Airfield, because he wants to dismantle it brick by brick and ship it 4,000 miles back to Iowa, where he is setting up a Miller Museum. And would you believe it? He does not know Miller never used the airfield. Shame on Wright for not telling Barry Soper. 7. Basel was as stated in my book. Basel was as stated in my book. I've no idea what's going on here at the moment. And here Wright goes again with Bordeaux. What the hell has Bordeaux got to do with Miller? Nothing. What evidence does Wright have? A postcard from Miller and Basel from Bordeaux? 8. I have said all I need to say about leading aircraftswoman Dixon. However, let me just clear one small point. It is not leading aircraftswoman Dixie Clark. She was then leading aircraftwoman Muriel Dixon of the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. Later, Mrs. Muriel Dixie Clark, who settled in British Columbia. Her story much more than just confused. Complete fabrication. And here Wright admits Morgan, Miller, Basel, and Haynes together, but then says no mention of Haynes anywhere. Confucius says, and Wright has an interview tape Dixon made in 1983. I have a copy of a 1914 comic cuts. That made me laugh also. Oh, Bruce, you don't have to be such a dick about it, but probably up to 50 minutes. We'll be lucky if we get the end of the show, get to the end of this bloody chapter. Slange. That is very nice, very quaffable. Oh, this is hard work. 9. The Twinwood Farm Airfield was not closed 15th of December 1944. The facts are, as in my Ghost Stations, and Hollington Station was 375, not 595. RAF Heston briefly housed the American 27th Air Transport Group. 10. The secret tunnels are as stated. Security was my job. Oh, the beer burp's again. Do apologise. And Wright is a security risk asking questions with people who worked at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. They have all signed the Official Secrets Act, so let me have their names. Ooh, getting fruity now. 11. Of course, there is no evidence of any kind to support the Poddington theory. They did not publish it in standing orders. Lack solid documentary evidence, Wright says. What a stupid remark. I wrote most of the so-called documentary evidence during the 50s. The documentary trial does not always tell you the truth. It tells you what those who wrote it want you to know. Honestly, the way he punctuates things with hyphens and dot, dot, dot. Anyway, 12, you could say the same for Kennedy. 13, the burial files. If open for all of us, Wright says, if open for all, as Wright says, why did he have to appeal to President Reagan for help to see them? What have they got to hide apart from a body or two? And here again on about documentary evidence, what Wright admits Hess was an imposter by mutual four-power agreement. Well documented, of course, by the four powers. Yeah, again. And here again on about documentary evidence, but Wright admits Hess was an imposter by mutual four-power agreement. Well documented, of course, by the four powers. They all signed to say what they were doing. Now, come. They must have done. Afraid not, secret devils. And I was deeply offended by the attack against Wing Commander Reg Stidolf. He was not a glory hunter prepared to invent outlandish stories. An apology has been demanded and will be shown in the first available reprint. Wing Commander Stidolf was commanding officer of No. 61 Squadron during the Second World War, and he did not fly a desk. He was a four-engined Lancaster bomber. He flew a four-engine Lancaster bomber. It was Wing Commander Reg Stidolf who put Bill Reed forward for his Victoria Cross, and Bill Reed is still around. I saw his picture in the Daily Mail on the 1st of June 1992. Let me just give a little background to Wing Commander Stidolf. What sort of man was he? Since the outbreak of the Second World War, Stidolf had served in all the main theatres from England to the Far East. He came to England from Rhodesia in 1935 and joined the Royal Air Force. In 1937, he went to the Fleet Air Arm, proper Air Force, specializing in torpedo work with seaplanes until early 1939. In November 1940, he was controller of flying boats on Suda Bay, Crete, and in March 1941, he found himself in Egypt as flight commander in a squadron of Blenheim fighter bombers and carried out 11 operations in the Western Desert. The following August, he took command of the squadron with the rank of Wing Commander. In December 1941, after being blasted to pieces by German bombers, the squadron was sent back to Delta to re-equip. Within a week, it set out for Burma, arrived at Rangoon on the 5th of January 1942, and began operations against the Japanese. After the evacuation of Burma, Stidolf returned to India, where he commanded a very advanced RAF base. Then back to England, but not before a flight to China. His worst experience was being bombed at Jarabub Oasis, where they lived among gullies and waddies. Although most of the aircrew escaped injury, 35 ground crew were killed. After being in command of No. 61 Squadron at Skellingthorpe in Lincolnshire for 3 months, he had by this time completed more than 50 operations, which included 19 in Blenheims in the Western Desert and 17 in Burma. And it was Wing Commander Stidolf who gave the Gaumont Gaumont News interview after the Berlin raid. Wing Commander Stidolf was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. His uncle, Major R.C. Nesbitt, there we go, won the Victoria Cross in the Mashone Uprising in 1893 when he was in the Rhodesian Pioneer Column. Stidolf was a true Rhodesian. I'm running out of patience here. Oh, slouch. What do you reckon, Derpy? You're sat on the window watching all this unfold. Oh, That's the end of the Y. That's the end of the butty back. Ah, that's that. Another dead soldier. And Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
This then, the background to Wing Commander Reg Stidolf, a gentleman and not, as Wright slurred, a glory hunter. Wright speaks of himself. Ooh. 14. This was the best piece of waffle I have ever read. Now Wright says Miller flew to Paris on the 14th December 1944 and on the Saturday 16th played at the big party at SHAF, and his source, a leading aircraftswoman, was at the party, hobnobbing, I expect, with all the top brass and telling them how to win the war. And Wright claims Miller chatted with this leading aircraftswoman, Joan Heath, driver to Air Chief Marshal Sir Arthur Tedder. And Miller told her he was going stateside for a few days over Christmas, and she agreed to take him to Bew Airfield. It just shows, if you want to get a top job done, ask the Daily Cleaner. How bloody far-fetched can you get? But that is not the end of it. The Bobcat aircraft was lost. They were going back to Bordeaux for more wine, by the way. The wreck and bodies were sighted in June 1946 from the air, but not found. How sad. How very, very sad. But there is more. The top brass at SHAF, that is short, oh, here we go. That is short for Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, had no idea of Miller's fate. Just a moment while I dry my eyes from laughing. And because Miller's Christmas Day broadcast was imminent, they, the top brass, fabricated the Norseman story with the help of Haynes, the man not mentioned in documents. Now that is a good one. Oh, and because Miller was AWOL, absent without leave, it was hushed up. So where is the documentary evidence which Wright claims so important? None. Fact, Miller would not lower himself to speak to a driver and leading aircraftswoman, not Miller. He was arrogant and not liked, not even by most of his band. Miller was at the top of the tree and only had to ask for what he needed, and he would have got it. Asking a leading aircraftswoman driver, my ass. He's written ass, but it should be ass. 15. Now Wright claims Miller's body found. I expect laid out, tunic pressed, buttons shining with a note saying, Miller's body, please find me now. Now, it is not the driver this time, nor the window cleaner, nor the butcher, nor the baker, nor the candlestick maker, but the later President of the United States himself, General D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Commander, who arranged the cover-up. Cover-up? What about documentary evidence? Wright does not, repeat, not know where Miller is buried. Then Wright says Hess was an imposter. What about all the important documentary evidence on Hess I have covered in this book? And my anti-British comment? I served security for Suez. My three brothers in the D-Day landings. My father, Canadian, fought in the First World War and was at Vimy Ridge. My uncle George in both the First and Second World Wars. Anti-British? The British government has done sod all for those who fought and gave their all. Just ask any British war pensioner and, if that is anti-British for speaking the truth, then I am anti-British. See, he's done it again. He's put the word and followed it by a comma. Bruce, the word and does not need a comma. So that should read, just ask any British pensioner, and if that is anti-British for speaking the truth, then I am anti-British. Let us remember it was the British who set up the first prisoner of war camp. That was during the Napoleonic War, and from its few thousand inmates, only a handful survived. Set up the first concentration camp during the Boer War. It was not the Germans, it was the British. At the time of writing, we have the Matrix Churchill affair. And as three innocent men take the rap, the British government, no lies, honest. Need I say more? Oh, Napoleon was killed by the British. So my proof comes from many sources, the main being Wing Commander Stidolf and Mrs. Betty Hockey, who saw Glenn Miller, Major Glenn Miller, in March 1945. Her signed proof is on page 16 of my Ghost Stations 4. And I would like to take the word of Wing Commander Stidolf and Betty Hockey against all the top brass and Wilbur Wrights in the world. The Miller story is, as told in my Ghost Stations, factual to the last dot. What do you reckon, Derp? Derp is looking at me as if to say, what the hell was that all about? I think that deserves a thunderclap, Derps. He's now sat on the floor looking at me. Do you want you coming up? Come and sit on my lap. No. What are we up to? Hour and 3 minutes. God, has it really taken that long to read that? Just one chapter. Slange. Oh, your good health. This next one is mercifully short. Is there a parallel dimension? Stranger than fiction. Let me tell you a story which might give you so much more than food for thought, but leave you in no doubt that there is a parallel dimension. In March 1975, Dickie Smith was setting out for Ostend in his light aircraft and, was just near Chelmsford when he picked up a faint message. ... He could not believe it. As a former wartime bomber pilot, Dickie knew it was an SOS from a crew about to ditch. You're coming up, Derpy. You put me off here. Come on, up you come. Come on. You are now officially holding up the Ghost Station show. Yeah. Come on. Come on. Up. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Up. You can do it. There we go. There we go. Right. Thank you. The message was very faint, but Dickie was able to establish it was from Halifax LL413 and sounded like Mayday for aircraft going down. I was able to trace the message, but it only got fainter. Then suddenly it was gone, said Dickie. Come on, off. Come on, down you come. You want some dinner, don't you? So what was the ghostly message? I researched and found that a 4-engine Halifax bomber, number LL413 from number 297 Squadron, did in fact fail to return from an air-sea rescue search over the North Sea on the 3rd of March 1945. It just vanished without trace. But how could Dickie Smith pick up a message 3 decades later? That was a mystery, and one that I could not answer. It was clearly the last message he heard from the aircraft. From what I could find out, it just disappeared in 1945 and was never found. A mystery. Then 3 decades later, an even bigger mystery. But that is not the first time such messages from the past have been received. Alan Holmes, a radio officer on the QE2, said he received a message from the liner Queen Mary. Nothing strange about that, you might say, but it was strange, very strange, for at the time he received the message, the Queen Mary was no longer in service as a liner. She had been turned into a conference center at Long Beach Harbor in California. Could it have been a hoax? Not possible. The message was in a code procedure which was no longer used. Holmes recognized it immediately as a routine position check being transmitted from the Queen Mary liner to Portishead radio station in Burnham, Somerset. Oh my goodness me. That's an interesting fact. This is being broadcast from Portishead in North Somerset, but Portishead radio station was actually in Burnham. There we go. So, what is the explanation? The answer that Alan Holmes gave might also explain the ghostly message that Dickie Smith received. He said, the signal had bounced out into space and just zipped around until it found its way back to Earth. A very logical answer. In fact, no one can come up with a better explanation. But you could put forward a parallel dimension as a theory. Radio is a very new invention, and the messages are still ringing their way through space. Then, out there in space, ... they might be received and inform those receiving same there is life on another planet. Remember, 1 light year is about 10 million kilometers. And to give you an example, the star Vega is a mere 26 light years away from the Sun. Vega is one of the 3 bright stars that dominate the western sky during the early winter months. It can be seen very clearly in the early evening. I hate to say it, Bruce, but that story did not go anywhere. Just seeing how short these ones are. Oh my goodness me, this next one is... I think this is going to be the last Un for tonight, Derps. Probably the last Dur for tonight. There he is, look. Can you see him? Perched on my lap because he wants some dinner. Slide. Your good health. The Ghost of Bluebell Hill. In September 1933, Rochester Council purchased 105 acres of land between the Rochester, Maidstone and Chatham roads for the purpose of developing a municipal airport. Short brothers, who had been in the area... See again, this is typical of Bruce. Short brothers who, had been in the area since 1913, then leased the land. It should be Short brothers who had been in the area since 1913, then leased the land. It's almost as if the late Bruce Barrymore Halpenny does not understand how commas are supposed to work. By the end of 1934, other firms had moved into Rochester and air services were established on June the 9th of June 1934, when Shorts began a service from Rochester to Southend. It is interesting to note in today's world of women in this and, women in that, at fever pitch, that in 1934 a small hangar was built for a private aircraft-owned pilot, a Miss G. Batchelor, the first woman in the country to have a pilot's license, and done without burning her bra. Oh, come on, Bruce. Grow up, mate. In 1938, the Royal Air Force formed number 23 Elementary and Reserve Flying School at Rochester. A second hangar was built in July 1938 when the school was expanded to train pilots for the Fleet Air Arm, proper Air Force. During 1939, the factory was extended and the mighty four-engine Stirling bomber started to be produced at Rochester. This made Rochester a main Luftwaffe target, and on the 15th of August 1940, the airfield was attacked by enemy aircraft, resulting in damage to Short's factory and the destruction of 6 Stirlings on the production line. On the night of the air raid, a young lady set out from Maidstone to cycle back to Rochester to see her boyfriend, who worked at Rochester Airfield. Just before she reached Bluebell Hill, her chain broke. In desperation to get to Rochester, she ran out to stop a lorry on the wartime dip lights, but the driver did not see her and she received a glancing blow, knocking her to the ground, and, it was alleged she fell under the wheels of the lorry. Knocking her to the ground, and, it was alleged she fell under the back wheels of the lorry. Doesn't need a comma there, Bruce. A few months after the accident, a person reported running over a young lady at Bluebell Hill, but when he got out to offer help, she had vanished. Over the years, dozens of people have reported running over a young lady, only to find it is the ghost of Bluebell Hill. You know what, Dirk? We might have to skip on ahead. We're going to have to skip on ahead and find a nice short one to finish off with tonight, or a nice short 2 to finish off tonight. No, this will be it for tonight, because we need to go downstairs and have some supper, and then try and stay awake for the England football game and give you some food, because that's why you're hanging around at the moment. So slange me by, everybody. Oh, your good health. Is it a 4 bumper tonight, Dirk? I think it is. You know what? I might get some more of this Balmuir, because it's pretty nifty stuff, actually. Last for tonight, UFO over Harold Hill. And Derek Smith also had a close encounter with a UFO. President Ronald Reagan and his wife Nancy were both adamant they had seen a flying saucer. In one incident in 1990, the Belgian Air Force scrambled 2 jet fighters to intercept a UFO, but when the pilots returned, they were forbidden to talk about it. The Air Force did admit they found nothing, yet they still threw a veil of secrecy over the whole operation. Very strange and sinister. The UFO was reported to be triangular in shape with 3 bright lights, and as the 2 jets approached, it appeared to black itself out and disappeared, yet was still on radar. Then, with incredible acceleration, it was gone. In a similar story from Derek Smith. In the autumn of 1980, I was on the night shift patrolling in a police car around the Harold Hill estate. Derpy, out of the way, out of the way. Come on, I'm trying to read the story here. You are blocking the... Come on, off you get. Off you get. Come on. Down you come. Come on. Come on, off you get. You are holding up the show, Cat, and all people can see at the moment is your ass. So, come on. Oh, for goodness sake, I've got to take a photograph of this because this is farcical. Off you go. No, he's just going to sit. Oh, we're gonna have to lean round him. Whoops. Go on, off you go. Finally. In the autumn of 1980, I was on the night shift patrolling in a police car around Harold Hill Estate about 2:30 a.m. to 3 a.m. I stopped the car and parked in Bridgewater Road near the junction with Hildene Close at the rear of the library. I turned out the car lights and settled into my seat to have a cigarette. I had been parked for about 10 or 15 minutes and was thinking of resuming patrol when I suddenly saw a brilliant ball of electric blue light appear over the top of my windscreen. It appeared to be the size of a tennis ball and was about 10 or 15 feet in the air. It suddenly accelerated into movement very fast along Bridgewater Road, swerved left behind the library into Hildene Close, and went out of my sight. I started the car and drove after it, but it had vanished. I drove around the area looking and debating with myself about what I had seen and whether to tell anybody, but I decided to keep it to myself. The night was dry and warm, and there were no thunderstorms or rain that night. As the car was stationary with the engine turned off, there was no way that the light was a street reflection caused by the movement of the car. And that is definitely a thunderclap. This will be a copyright strike from Facebook, but I don't care because I would dispute it. So cheers, me beers. In the magnificent United Federation of Planet shot glass, again, courtesy of friends Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Slange me var. Oh, that was a shot. That was a shot. Lovely. Right. That's it for tonight. I need to go and feed his derpiness before he interrupts the show anymore. I need to feed myself and try and stay awake for the England game in 2 hours' time. So until the next time, as always, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why not? Why not watch a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head and an awesome Godzilla t-shirt and an even awesomer Godzilla bottle opener? Drink ghost stories and read it. I'll try it again. We'll have a run up at that, derps. Thank you for watching. What else are you going to do on a Sunday night than watch a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head drink alcohol? Oh, fuck that up. Try again. What else are you going to do on a Sunday night than watch a confused man from Dudley drink ghost stories and read alcohol? Come on, folks, you can do better. I can't. I am trapped in this sad existence. So, until the next time, as always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and please don't have nightmares. Good night.